This thing feels like a little shit. It definitely looks like one. But I don't know. I don't think I've faced them before. I mean, it looks like it actually will be dangerous if it gets behind you, especially those two. The Star League era was a time of peace and prosperity. If you weren't a periphery nation, technology was at its peak and economies were good, and a strong coalition army keeping the peace by being powerful than all member states. The SLDF, Standing Army of the Coalition, consists of personnel and various kinds of equipment from all member states. Some equipment was built only for SLDF use, or at least it was catered to the SLDF. One of the many equipment the SLDF used was the Firefly, a light support mech that became the standard light mech for the entire defense force. Now, the FFL-4B model is not the original model of the Firefly, but we're going to use it as the base design because, well, the game considers it the standard design. The FFL-4B is technically a clan model. This variant was used by the Wolf's Dragoons when they were sneaking about, scouting out the militaries of the Inner Sphere for the upcoming invasion. One thing they didn't know that was by the time they made their appearance, the Firefly was basically extinct in the Inner Sphere. The eyebrows were definitely raised, but a bunch of mercenaries were running around with lots of them. But we'll get to that in a bit. Anyway, the Firefly is built on the Earthworks Firefly chassis rated for 30 tons. It is powered by a GM150 engine, giving it a top speed of only 86 kilometers per hour. It's not exactly a fast boy, so that's why they gave it 6.5 tons of Star Slab 1 standard armor so that it can at least tank some shots. It can also jump with 4 Lexington lifter jump jets, giving it some agility. It is armed with 3 Martel medium lasers, a Sunfire 444 AMS, and a Coventry 5-tube LRM-5 with ammo stored in case. Targeting the weapons is the RADCOM TXS, and the communication system is the DATCOM 18. Cooling all these downs are the standard 10 heat sinks. Now, just a note, you see in the picture here, right? There's a machine gun on each arm. I think this is supposed to be like the AMS, right? It is only mounted on like one arm in like the record sheets and the equipment part, I guess, of the mech. But the picture might, might be actually how it looks. Like let's say the AMS on the record sheets, right? That's like the camera, I guess, like the sensors of the AMS. But in universe, there's actually 2 machine guns on each shoulder, or something like that. I don't know, but that's just my theory. But the TRO, the Succession Wars TRO, does say that the right one is a dummy. So I'm not entirely sure what's going on there. Also, see those wings at the back there? That is just cosmetic. Until later. We'll get to that. Oh yeah, one more thing. Obviously, this thing doesn't have any arms. The series of Fireflies that served the Star League was the 3 series of models. In a lot of ways, these models are more advanced than the current standard ones. The model accepted to service was the FFL-3A in the year 2679. The first model actually used an XL engine, double heat sinks, and ferrofibrous armor. For weapons, it's similar to the 4B model, but with a quad of Martel small lasers instead of AMS, attack system, and more ammunition for the Coventry 5.2 LRM-5. Now, funny thing about this one is that based on Megamech, this thing has 0.5 tons of free weight left. I don't know what's going on there. But on the next model, apparently it has reduced armor. So what I think is supposed to happen here is that it's supposed to have 6.5 tons of ferrofibrous armor. But for whatever reason, you can't go to 6.5 tons of ferrofibrous armor. I don't know if this is like a bug, Megamech bug or not, but the battle value is the same as a record sheet, so not sure what's going on there. The Pentagon Worlds was where the Exodus fleet would ultimately settle, but it was not the only place. Over the course of their history, more habitable systems and planets have been discovered and colonized. One of these planets was Strana Mechti, in many ways the original capital of the clans. Once the industries were developed, the Star League in exile was now able to modify and upgrade its equipment. The FFL-3 SLE is identical to the previous version except for the apparent reduced armor and the tag being replaced with a Guardian ECM. It has also been stated that there are multiple personalized versions of this variant, but the ECM was removed for more missiles or a targeting computer, or the engine being reverted back to the normal size. One of these was piloted by Michelle Reinhold, a first-generation Snow Raven clanner. Took part in Operation Klondike in the invasion of Circe. Following that, she was involved in repeated campaigns against the Empire of Hidalgo and the Kerensky Dominion, where she will fall in battle defending Han Stephen McKenna. She was awarded posthumously with her genetic material saved and the Reinhold name made into a blood name. Next, we have the PP line of 3 series. These were fireflies that the Pentagon Powers used. All of these models were based on the SLE variant. PP1 removes the ECM and case to replace the LRM-5 and LRM-10. PP2 replaced the Ferrofiber's armor with cheaper standard armor. And finally, PP3 is the same as PP2, except the ECM was removed for an Artemis fire control system. The Firefly C was created after the Starlink and Exile fully transformed into the clans. This is the only Firefly to utilize proper clan technology and is the best variant available. It is built on a new Endo Steel chassis and comes with 10 double heat sinks, 4 ER smalls, 3 medium pulses, and an SRM-2 launcher. A pirate by the name of James Reynold managed to get his hands on one of these and has been wreaking havoc in Kurita and clan space with his pirate crew. Clan Ghost Bear did find a link between him and a Diamond Shark facility, but the clan as a whole denies any involvement with this guy. Just like any military operation, before you commit your entire force, you should send out scouts ahead so you know what you'll be facing. This is exactly what the Wolf Dragoons were. They were supposed to assess the military power of the Sphere nations by working with them as mercenaries. Of course, they can't just go in with their current clan mechs because that would just raise eyebrows, you know? Who are these people and where do they get all these things that we've never seen before? They needed mechs that are of the same technological level as the Sphere nations, as not to raise any suspicion as to who they were. The 4 series was the solution. A line of downgraded mechs based on the modern C model. The 4A was the first in this new family. It was designed to function similarly to the old 3A. Specs-wise, it's almost identical to the 4B, so I'm not going to repeat it. The weapons are similar to 3A, but the missile ammo isn't stored in case, and the tag is not installed. It's just a 4B with small lasers instead of AMS. Skipping over the 4B, when Comstar publicized its military arm, they also unveiled several mechs of their own design. One of them is the 4C variant. The 4C is a 3A reborn with its XL engine and 10 double heat sinks. The armor was instead 6.5 tons of standard armor rather than ferrofibrous, but the chassis was made of endo steel, so it kind of balances it out a bit. Heavier armor, lighter chassis. For weapons, it carries an AMS, an Artemis LRM-5, and 3 medium pulses. Moving on to the 4D, which was the Wolf Dragoon's copy of the 4C. It is very similar, but with a light engine instead of XL, 6 tons of ferrofibrous armor instead of standard, but 12 single heat sinks instead of 10 double heat sinks, which was a bit of a downgrade. Its weapons are also similar, but with ER mediums instead of pulses. There's also a sub-variant called the 4DA, which simply replaces the AMS with Guardian ECM. The latest variant is the 5A. The Wolf Dragoon contracted Cerise Metal Industries to produce the Firefly in an attempt to decentralize the logistics. The 5A is yet another clone of the 4C, but with a bigger 180 XL engine. This was to fix a long-standing criticism of the mech's low top speed when compared to its contemporaries. With it, the top speed has been increased to 97 km per hour. Series also finally made the winglets functional, which allowed the mech to glide after jumping. The combination of these two upgrades dramatically increased the mobility of the Firefly. Its weapon loadout is the same as the 4D, except for the emission of the Aramis fire control system. Captain Christopher Lange pilots one of these. It was originally a friend's mech, but that friend unfortunately died. Christopher was originally an LCAF officer before joining the Hellhounds. Ever since the fall of Ark Royale, his home planet, the Jade Falcon, he and the Hellhounds went around raiding Jake Felton planets before disappearing. He hasn't been seen since. The Firefly was never really intended to be a scout. It plays more of a supporting flanker, getting behind the enemy while the rest of the lance pushes in from the front. Its comparatively thicker armor allows it to take a lot more punishment compared to other light mechs, which could make it a decent light brawler. Most, if not all, Fireflies were brought along with the Exodus fleet. There were scattered sightings and reports of Fireflies in Innisphere ever since their departure, but it was largely thought to be extinct by the Second Secession War. The clans appear to not be aware of this fact, so when they sent in the Wolves Dragoons, everyone in the Innisphere raised their collective eyebrows when these random mercenaries out of nowhere appeared with a large number of the mechs in tow. But no one actually cared enough to look into it until the clans arrived, when they got the answer. But after the reintroduction, it seems that the mech is largely only used by clan dragoon forces, as there is nothing to say that any Innisphere or Periphery nation have adopted the mech into their militaries. Would you consider this a little shit? Kinda is. I mean, it's not as fast, but I mean, it looks like one. It looks like one, but it has got pretty good armor, I would say, and a lot more firepower than the previous three little shits that we've discovered. We've discussed over here. I feel like it's a little shit. I don't know. I don't think I've ever faced them before. Maybe I have and I've just forgotten, or I just don't face them enough to have an opinion on it. There's a lot of mechs in this universe, right? I can't face all of them. There are definitely mechs I've never faced ever before in my life. Even with, like, you know, however long a long campaign in Battletech, in Mega Mech even. There's just some mechs you just never seem to encounter. And I feel like this is one of those things. I honestly can't put a finger on when I've faced these things. Unlike most stuff, which I can't remember because they are a lot more memorable in a way. You know? But that's that. That is this week's briefing, pilots. Thanks for joining. If you enjoyed what you just heard and seen, then please do consider joining the Jupiter fleet. Click that sub button down there, right? That will automatically put you in line to be piloting one of Jupiter's finest mechs. Yes. But if you're not brave enough to join the fleet, which is more than understandable, maybe you could just leave a comment or a like. You know, that will help with me with the algorithm, so we can lure in more braver pilots than you, coward. They'll join the fleet in your place. Someone doesn't have the cojones. My personal graveyard, the Discord channel. Yes, that's where that's I call it a graveyard, but it's more of the Jupiter fleet's open communication systems. Yes, we can if you're Jovian, you can use it, man. Just click down there and you'll be it, right? I'll dig up a grave for you to sleep in. Yeah. Streaming, I do that. My game, I mean my training sessions, I do all that. I show you off the skills that I learn, skills that I know, so I can train you guys, right? You can use it as like a exercise element. I don't know if you can hear the clicking, but here's a clicking of the pen I'm holding. You can use that to assess my things and learn from my mistakes, or learn from your own mistakes by seeing me doing things the right way that you've been doing the wrong way this entire time. Glory to the Jupiter colony. Glory to you all, the pilots, the brave pilots, the brave Jovians of the Jupiter fleet. Take care. Fuck those Earthnoids. Kill them. Total Earth death. But as you do that, please do not die.